Today I'm going to take you to a secret Knights Templar site that was so important that I went all the way to France just to seek it out. And I'm going to show you connections with other Templar secrets that have never been made public before. This is completely original research. If you saw my previous video about the Autun Pyramid, this was a continuation of the same research expedition, where I went north from Autun to the town of Vezelay. The beautiful Vezelay Abbey with its sacred path of light that shows up on the summer solstice and its relics of Mary Magdalene is a very important site for the Virgin and Marian traditions as well as much older goddess worship. And I'll be putting together a full video on the occult and esoteric secrets of that site for the near future. But for now, we're going down the hill to a very hidden and out-of-the-way site, and you really need to know what you're looking for to even find it. These tiny dirt pathways barely qualify as roads, but once you've snaked your way down the north side of the hill from Vezelay Abbey and past the 800-year-old Franciscan hermitage, it opens up into a small clearing. This place is completely inconspicuous. It just looks like a pile of rocks with a cross sticking out of the top. But don't let that fool you. This site has been extremely sacred for far longer than the Abbey or the Templars ever existed. In fact, this may be the real secret of the Virgin hidden in Vezelay. The real irony about this spot, the reason it became rather infamous and the reason there is a giant cross jammed down in some rocks here, is because in 1146, this was the exact spot where St. Bernard of Clairvaux preached the Second Crusade. That is to say that he stood here in front of tens of thousands of people, including knights, peasantry, and the King of France, and got them all riled up to go killing people for Jesus. Bernard was foundational in the development of the Knights Templar, and though he himself was not a knight, he was a Cistercian monk, he acted as the spiritual guidance for the Knights Templar, like Master Splinter to the Ninja Turtles. He really had the gift for gab like an early Edward Bernays, and he did all the propaganda and PR work for the Templars to make them acceptable to the clergy and lay public. And this event in Vezelay was like a 1,000-year-old 9/11, just getting everybody on board to go and throw their life away and join the Templars and go off and murder people. You notice how everything's a holy mission when there's some rich dude that wants someone else's land? It's almost like people don't read the first line of their own book. Thou shalt not kill. It's really not that difficult. In any case, let me show you what's actually on these rocks and show you why calling for bloodshed at this exact spot was really twisted. Now this is a dolmen. This is a pile of megalithic rocks that has been deliberately put here and carved out with these womb-shaped depressions, and these are very significant. This dolmen, this pile of rocks, looks like it was made from singular rocks that had these carvings on them that may have been in different areas and were brought here and stacked on top of one another deliberately. Getting a good close-up look at these myself was the reason I went to France, because nobody has ever mentioned these up until now. To those of you who have watched my video on the Knights Templar Secrets of Divine Wisdom, I took you to Portugal, to Knights Templar sites like Tomar and Monsanto. And I showed you other Knights Templar sites that had this same womb symbolism. The womb-shaped mountain fortress of Monsanto has boulders that have these same womb-shaped depressions carved in them. The most significant of these womb-shaped carvings sits on a giant boulder, dead smack in the middle of the fortress at the entrance to a womb-shaped cavern system, and they have it graded off so when we put our camera below it, you can see that the tunnel itself is also womb-shaped, and it's surrounded by ancient stonework blocking off radiating tunnels that go off from it. Now these days they call this a cistern, but it's not a cistern. There were other dedicated cisterns built for this fortress. The reason it's flooded with water is because they plugged up the bottom part of it. And if you go down the hill to the other entrance where they have it plugged up, there is another boulder with a womb-shaped carving on top of it showing the entrance. So what it looks like is that at least at Monsanto, these womb-shaped carvings on boulders designated important landmarks, important areas. In this case, what it looks like was that underneath the fortress there was a tunnel system, a womb of rebirth for initiations from the mother goddess. And the Templars even built a small, nondescript chapel to Mary right next to it. In other videos about Monsanto, I have shown that this may have been the legendary Mons Veneris, the Mountain of Venus, which the Templars later usurped and built a fortress on. Some real Dan Brown stuff that's been hidden from history. And the womb-shaped depressions present in Vezelay are exactly the same as those in Monsanto. What I don't know is where these stones stood around Vezelay originally. That would make things a lot easier, but unfortunately I think that information is lost to time. What I do know is that there are underground water caverns and water courses underneath Vezelay Abbey and the hill that the abbey was built to take advantage of energetically. There is also reference to ancient standing stone megaliths that stood in front of where Vezelay Abbey is right now in the area of the garden. And this just so happens to be only a few feet away from the entrance to the modern cisterns that they're using for water storage today. And wouldn't you know it, what sits at the bottom of the hill, connected to the other end of those same cisterns, tucked away in a little glade in the middle of the forest? An ancient fountain that is sacred to the Magdalene. And that same fountain is still used on the Vezelay pilgrimage called the Camino de Santiago, and the Vezelay route. The symbol that is still used today for the Camino is the scallop shell, the shell of the Virgin, the mons pubis of the goddess. And this Magdalene fountain in Vezelay, France, looks just like the one at the base of the Templars' fortress in Tomar, Portugal, in their Garden of the Seven Hills. And this fountain is being fed by a well that is shaped like a vagina that connects up to the cisterns underneath what is called the Chirola, the Templars' castle, that also had underground initiatory tunnels. And the water from this ancient pre-Templar yoni-shaped opening runs down the hill into their fountain. Now, are you starting to see a theme here? The structure of the hill of Vezelay itself is also a womb. Over the years, many people have seen this odd and distinctive shape and speculated that it was shaped like a scorpion, but there's absolutely nothing in the folklore to indicate that this had anything to do with scorpions. I just think they're pussy shy. Vezelay is a hidden esoteric hotbed with many occult connections that have not really been spoken about publicly. It's connected with Arthurian legend and the celestial legend of the Holy Grail. Avalon is just down the road, and King Arthur is in the sky above Vezelay every night. And it's also a key location in the true meaning and history of tarot cards, which tarot readers and tarot historians seem to know nothing about. And nobody's mentioning it. Nobody's noticing these connections. And nobody's noticing that the Knights Templar seem to have gone all over the ancient world and stuck their proverbial cross in the yoni of these different sites, and whether they were keeping the tradition alive secretly as a secret form of internal worship, or whether they were covering it up and harnessing the once beneficial and nurturing energies of the goddess and twisting it into something far darker. I'll let you be the judge. The Museum of Tarot online shop is your source for the most cutting-edge consciousness enhancement devices and research tools available today. From our Dicyan Aura goggles and phone kits to our mind-to-mind psychic training device, our Halo Pulsar electromagnetic protection device, and our suppressed reprint books. There's something for the seeker in all of us. So stop on by today at museumoftarot.com.